I ran an experiment I probably shouldn't have. I applied for the exact same apartment with the exact same paperwork 4 separate times, and the only thing I changed was the number on my bank statement. Same job, same credit score, same everything. What came back from landlords at each level was honestly kind of insane. And by the end of this, you're going to look at your own bank account completely differently. Let's start at zero. At net worth zero, no savings, paycheck to paycheck, nothing in the bank as a cushion. I called about a listing and asked the standard questions. The tone on the phone changed almost instantly the moment I mentioned I didn't have 3 months of rent saved up. Suddenly, there was a co-signer requirement that wasn't in the original listing. Suddenly, the landlord needed a bit more time to think about it. I never heard back. This wasn't one bad landlord having an off day. I tried this exact script at 3 different properties, and 2 of them ended the same way. Silence. Now here's the part that surprised me. At $15,000 in savings, not rich, not even close. Just someone with a small cushion built up. The entire tone shifted. Callbacks came within the day instead of never. One landlord actually said, word for word, "Oh good, you're stable." Nothing about my income had changed. Nothing about my job had changed. Just a number I mentioned once, almost as an afterthought, completely rewrote how fast people wanted to work with me. At 100,000 net worth, I stopped getting asked for extra paperwork altogether. Applications that took other people a week to get approved took me 2 days. One landlord skipped the credit check conversation entirely and just asked when I wanted to move in. I started noticing something else too. The properties themselves got nicer. Not because I was asking for anything different. Landlords were showing me units that weren't even the one I called about, because now, apparently, I looked like someone worth keeping around. At $500,000, something changed that I genuinely didn't expect. Landlords started negotiating with me. Not the other way around. One dropped the asking rent without me asking, just to lock in a good tenant. Another offered to waive the security deposit entirely. I wasn't trying to buy anything. I wasn't flaunting anything. The only thing that moved was a net worth figure buried in a financial disclosure form most people barely skim. At $2 million, I stopped applying like a normal person entirely. Property managers started reaching out to me. I mentioned, almost casually, that I might be interested in a long-term lease, and within an hour I had a personal callback from someone who introduced themselves as handling select tenants, a phrase that apparently exists, and apparently I now qualified for. Nobody asked about my job. Nobody asked about my credit. The paperwork basically became a formality. And at $10 million, the entire process flipped upside down. I wasn't applying for housing anymore. I was being pitched. Private showings. Off-market listings that aren't even publicly posted. A property manager who called me directly, used my first name like we were already friends, and casually mentioned they could make the lease terms work however I needed. At $0, I couldn't get a callback. At $10 million, they were rearranging their own rules to keep me. Same person. Same voice on the phone. Same basic paperwork every single time. The only thing that ever changed across all 6 calls was a number most of these landlords never even verified. I could have been lying at every single level, and it still would have worked exactly the same way. Which, honestly, might be the most unsettling part of this whole thing. Nobody in this industry says the quiet part out loud, but the pattern was too consistent to ignore. The less you have, the more you have to prove. The more you have, the less anyone even asks. Now I want to know where you'd guess you'd land on this list, and if you've ever felt this shift yourself, even something small, like a landlord suddenly being nicer the second you mentioned a stable job. Drop it in the comments, because I have a feeling a lot of you have a story like this. And if you want to see what happens on the other side of this, what actual landlords say about tenants when they think no one from the other side is listening, let me know, because that might be the next one. This video is a dramatized illustration based on common social and financial experiences, not a literal documented experiment.